Hello, everybody. This is going to be my recap of the first Loki episode titled "Glorious Purpose." I thought this was a pretty good episode and a very good, you know, start of a series. To be honest, that it was pretty great. Um, anyway, let's get to it. The episode starts off right at the moment they captured Loki in the Avengers movie. They made it a bit more Loki centric, showing his like reactions to stuff, etc. But it basically happened the same. Um, he lands like in the Gobi Desert, um, presumably same time, uh, since he just had the space stone. At first, he's approached by like some locals, and he does his whole "I am burdened by glorious purpose" speech, and they just don't like understand him. But then TVA show up, and they give him probably like the third hardest hit like he's ever had. Besides Odin spanking him and then the Hulk smashing him. Uh, and so he gets arrested. He gets brought in through processing TVA. A lot of stuff happens pretty quick. Um, the Tesseract gets put in evidence, and like he doesn't even like know what it is. It's just like uh, then Loki gets his fine Asgardian leather lasered off, and we all know that like Loki's Loki really cares about the fashion, so probably hurt to lose that. And he has to sign for like every word he's ever said. It's just like another absurd thing. And then this is pretty good. He has to walk through this detector to make sure he's not like a robot. And he has a moment before like, what if I don't know? What if I don't know if I'm a robot or not? And basically, the guy says that if he's not a robot, I mean, if he's a robot, then he'll melt from the inside out. Uh, and it also takes pictures of quantum auras, which is pretty cool. And hopefully, we find out more about these quantum auras in the future. Um, then he has to walk through like an empty line, and we get like this big lore drop from Miss Minutes. And Miss Minutes, she goes all, she talks about like the uh, big multiversal secret war that happened in the distant past, and uh, how the timekeepers um, created the sacred timeline to make sure that like another big multiverse war doesn't happen again, and they make it seem like, well, for the TVA is at technically at the end of the universe, well, at the end of time, of known recorded time, um, for them at least. But uh, so for them, the Secret War happened like a long time ago. But for our heroes at the MCU and for this Loki, it hasn't happened yet. So this is a big, big, big like notification that Marvel is basically getting ready for a full on Secret War in a few years, probably. Loki, of course, thinks all of this is completely, ludicrous. The Timekeeper's sacred timeline, etc. And of course, he is right. They shouldn't, be able to dictate. But I guess it's in their mind, it's to keep the peace, etc. And we cut to Owen Wilson's character Mobius investigating a time crime in the 1500s. Uh, Boy shows up, and Mobius asks who killed like the people, and he points to this stained glass devil, and it's supposed to mean Loki because he's got like the big horns on his forehead. But like, you can't tell me that Marvel didn't. You can't tell me that like Marvel put this in here and didn't think people would be like Mephisto, Mephisto, and that's the first thing that I thought was Mephisto. So I think this is also foreshadowing for maybe not Mephisto in this series, but that they're definitely cooking something up with him. They reset the timeline and leave. Then we get to Loki's trial, and Loki explains that the only reason he got the Tesseract was because the Avengers traveled back in time, and it's really shows like how impressive his like senses are because he was able to detect that they that there was like two Tony Starks, which he might have been able to put like two and two together because the time variance authority showed up. Uh, so he assumed like, oh, I guess the Avengers did time travel, but nonetheless, he's either very smart or he's got very good senses. But he also made a joke about smelling two Tony Stark's cologne. Ultimately, Loki gets sentenced to being reset. He gets sentenced guilty after trying and failing to use his powers because they do not work in the TVA. Mobius steps up to help him, wanting to of course use Loki for his investigation. We get a good look at the TVA City, I guess, and it's very 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 big, and it looks pretty cool. We're getting like some high sci-fi in Marvel now. It's pretty cool. Mobius brings him to a room and asks him questions. It boils down to Mobius like wanting to know if Loki enjoys hurting people. He shows Loki highlights on a projector, highlights of his life. He shows him part of what his future is supposed to be, and how Loki accidentally causes his mom's death. And we also find out Loki was the infamous DB Cooper in the MCU, and I wonder what other adventures Loki went on, what other mischievous antics he did. Mobius explains Loki is supposed to fail, so others can achieve their best versions of themselves, referring to the Avengers, of course. Mobius gets interrupted by Hunter B-15. That's the Hunter that, of course, arrested Loki. She says it's dangerous to talk to him, and he needs to be reset. He needs to be, Loki escapes using the device used to control him. He must have lifted off of Mobius when Mobius helped him up, I assume. Loki finds the worker who took the Tesseract, threatens to gut him like a fish. Finds the drawer with the Tesseract and a bunch of Infinity Gems. The worker, Casey, shows him the drawer. Casey explains that they have a lot of them. Some people use them as paperweights, he says. And if you're, a Marvel true believer like me, you know that the stones only work in their respective timelines or respective universes. But it's also, kind of like giving you a hint that, oh yeah, these Infinity Stones are not going to mean anything in the future, at least in the near future. We see a view screen of the Sacred Timeline, and I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot of it as it branches off. Hunter B-15 finds him, but immediately after that last picture, but he teleports back to the projector room and watches the rest of his sacred timeline life. The most impactful moment being his death, of course. Seems to make Loki kind of go into an existential crisis. He cries a lot, and then he starts laughing. B-15 finds him again, and wonder what's funny. He says, "Glorious purpose." He said that so much this episode. She tries to arrest Loki again, but this time Loki gets the upper hand on her and puts his control necklace, or whatever, his collar, on her and teleports her around a lot. He just like plays with the thing, makes her teleport back and forth real quick, but then he sends her away. Mobius finds him, and Loki explains that he doesn't enjoy hurting people. It's part of his illusion, the elaborate trick conjured by the weak to inspire fear. It's part of his role as, a trickster, I guess. Mobius explains he doesn't view Loki as a villain, but I don't know, I don't necessarily believe that, because maybe he just means this Loki. Because right after he's also explains he needs Loki to hunt down another Loki. So I guess obviously that Loki's a villain to him. And then we cut to, some TVA hunters investigating a crime. They think it's some dude coming from the future to the past to get oil to get rich quick, but it's a setup. We can only assume by another Loki, and they kill the TVA hunters by burning the oil that they were standing in. And yeah, we assume that this hooded figure right here is that Loki. Maybe Lady Loki. It might be old evil Loki. We don't know. And I'm sure, hopefully, we'll find out next episode. But that's it for that. And, like I said, I thought this was a really good episode, and I've watched it a few times. I watched it today. And, I'm probably gonna watch it again before the next one comes out. Anyway, that's gonna be it. If you like this, please hit like and subscribe. And I'll see y'all again tomorrow.